Hi, everyone, and welcome into Tap Into Your Creativity. I'm just waiting for everyone to start joining in. Today's guest artist, curator and gallery CEO, Alicia Puig, is joining us all the way from Costa Rica, which I cannot even tell you how excited I am for this interview. I'm bringing her in right now. This is going to be such an informational interview for all of you, and there she is. Welcome,
Hi.
Alicia. I'm so happy you're joining us today. I can't believe you're in Costa Rica. It sounds amazing, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining my army of artists and being here. And you have such an incredible resume, and for people that don't know you, I'm going to read a little bit about who you are because it's very extensive, and it's amazing. Actually, you should feel very proud of yourself. But Alicia is the CEO and co-founder of PxP Contemporary, director of business operations for Create Magazine. She's an art writer and co-author of the book, The Complete Smartist Guide, which I just ordered. Yes. And you write for lots of blogs and magazines, and
Yes.
pretty much are all over. So welcome to the program, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you first. I want to say thanks so much for having me, Sandra. I'm excited to talk with you today about my background and all the things that I have going on, which are quite a lot. So I've pretty much been a creative kid since I was little. And I was very fortunate to have parents who encouraged that, especially my mother. My father passed away when I was 12, and so after that, like, my mom really took over, and she raised me as a single mom, and she was, like I said, just very, very supportive. Even though she didn't really understand the art, she was someone who earned her PhD in chemistry, so she had a very
Oh, wow.
technical and scientific background, so she didn't quite understand how she ended up with this daughter who was super creative. But like I said, she was always very supportive of me, took me to art classes and helped me get all the Girl Scout patches in art, and took me encouraged me to get art supplies when I needed them. So I was very fortunate in that regard. So from that, I then took art classes in high school, and I had a really informative and supportive art teacher, Mr. Hieronymus, which is kind of funny name for an art teacher, especially considering the artist Hieronymus Bosch. But Mr. Hieronymus was great. He was so, just like I said, supportive of me, this like very shy and quiet, like 14 to 17-year-old. But from learning under him, I got the confidence to want to apply to art in undergrad. And so I went to school first I started in graphic design. I think, like a lot of creatives, I thought, I don't know if I can make it as a full-time artist, so I'll do something creative that also has a little bit more stability. But I only did that for about a year. I realized I hated it. It was not for me. So I ended up transferring, and I went to a small state school in Pennsylvania, Kutztown University, and I studied fine art there. And that's actually where I ended up meeting my business partner, Kat, but I'll get into that story a little bit later on.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So I studied fine arts, but at the same time, I was also interning a lot. And I think I ended up doing like 8 internships, which is crazy. And I don't necessarily recommend that. Luckily, I was able to find some that were paid. And I think at least half, if not more, were paid. And
What kind of
so
internships were they?
all different kinds. Basically anything I could find. I interned
Art
at
related
museums.
or not art
Yes,
related?
yes, all art related. I was working in collections. I was doing archival work. I was working for galleries. I mean, really, like I said, anything I could find. Um, Actually, there's an interesting story there, really, like, on a side note. I I was at school in like the middle of Pennsylvania, and I really wanted to get an internship in Philadelphia one summer. And so I applied to every single one I could possibly find, like all of the big museums, any you can think of, I applied to it. And I heard back from none of them. I didn't get any of them. And I was devastated. And then I decided, well, okay, maybe obviously Philly is not going to work out for me this year. So I decided there has to be some other city nearby that I can make this work. And so I thought, well, DC is pretty close. Let me just see what's going on there. And I came across this website from the Smithsonian that had, it wasn't their big internship program, but it was people who worked there who were looking for assistance to help them with a specific project. So I applied and I got accepted to one of those. So I didn't get into any of the Philadelphia museums, but I ended up working at the Smithsonian, at one of the Smithsonian museums for that summer.
That's
so,
crazy.
I mean,
That's
just,
amazing.
Right?
It was meant to be.
It was the wildest thing, and it ended up being the most wonderful and amazing summer. I mean, obviously all those museums are free, so I got to go to all these amazing museums and also see the back end of what working at one of those museums is like. It was mind-blowing and incredible. So just like a funny side note there.
Yeah.
And from interning, I kind of realized that as much as I loved making my own work, I was just so much more drawn to kind of working in the admin side, the business side, and helping my friends put on shows of their work rather than me trying to do my own. Although I still was keeping up with it for even after I graduated. Like by the time I graduated, I had been in 50 shows with my own work, and I had even exhibited internationally. I mean, I was very.
What kind of artwork did you make then?
Yeah, so at the time I was making these landscape works I was working in painting and a little bit of printmaking. I was doing landscapes that were like nocturnes, so a lot of just night scenes and focusing on the light, and it was fairly realistic. I was kind of pretty tight with my painting. But after, like I said, after that, it just kind of transitioned. I realized that I was definitely more interested in the business and gallery side. So I ended up going to Temple University in Philadelphia. I eventually made my way to Philadelphia, and I got my master's in art history, and that really led me down the path of working in the gallery museum world. And from that, it just kind of spiraled and spiraled. I guess a brief rundown of my actual career starting after school was I immediately got a job in a gallery. I think I had 2 weeks between graduating and starting my first full-time job in the arts.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's not a lot of time.
No, it's not. I really went straight into working. I don't think I've stopped working since I was like, I don't know, 14. I've just like constantly had jobs. And I guess part of that is also, it's been very fortunate. I've never been unemployed. But that's also part of some things I can talk about.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of networking, and it's not necessarily easy that I made that happen. But yeah, so I worked in a gallery for 2 years in Philly, or 2.5 years. Then I met my now husband, and he was based in Chicago at the time. So I ended up moving to be with him, and I worked at an auction house. And then I also worked for an art fair for a little bit there. And then he always had this lifelong dream of wanting to live in Amsterdam. So we ended up moving after a year to Amsterdam. And
that's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. It was a wild experience because neither of us had ever been there. We didn't know anyone. And luckily I was able to find a job within a month of moving. So I worked at a gallery and also at an art fair there. And after a year, we loved it. We fell completely in love with it. It was an amazing experience. We got to travel so much on a very limited budget. But I think as much as we loved it, it was just difficult to find like a.
Were you still working in the art world in Amsterdam?
Yeah. I was able to find a job with the gallery. Very savvy networking and a little bit of good timing and good luck. And but after a year there, unfortunately we had to leave. We couldn't find permanent resident status to stay, but he'd always wanted to eventually move back home. He is Costa Rican, so we are now living officially here. I've been here for about 2 years, working remotely on about 1 million different projects, which I can get into after this.
So
that's the...
Alicia, ¿podemos hablar español?
Un poquito
Kidding.
si quieres, pero...
Oh, no, just kidding. Well, not. How is your Spanish, actually? Is it pretty good?
I mean, like I said, like I mentioned to you, it's, I understand everything. So when people speak to me, I definitely know what they're saying, but
Yeah.
Just living in the States my whole life and only having moved to a primarily Spanish or a fully Spanish speaking country the past 2 years, I've just never had to rely on it. So
Yeah.
I've never really become amazing at conversing naturally, but it's mostly in my head. It's mostly just like me being shy about sounding very American when I speak Spanish, but
it's okay. You'll get over it.
I know.
So now, like you said, everything has been now online, right? So you can work, like you're in Costa Rica and you're doing things that you would think that you would have to be in New York or Chicago or, you know, big cities. And it's not the case anymore, is it?
Yeah. No, it's not at all. And at the beginning, I was a bit shy about telling people that I lived here because I was worried that they would kind of judge me for it. And so I would say like, oh, I'm between Costa Rica and Philly, or like, oh, I still have a lot of roots in Philadelphia, or I travel back to New York a lot. But it was really silly for me to do that because I've been doing my job without any problems for over 2 years now. And I think the other part of it is it was nice that I did have kind of cut my teeth at in those 3 big cities, you know, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Amsterdam, because I already had built that network before I moved here. So I still can kind of tap into those very established art centers. But I don't, even then, I don't think it's 100% necessary. I think it just makes a few things easier. But again, like you said, and like we were just kind of mentioning, the art world has become very global, and now that everyone is working online, it makes things so much easier. You really don't have to be in New York or LA or London to be part of it, and you know, that's a great thing. That's, I think,
It is. I think it's an amazing thing, and I think for our artist community now, we couldn't be more excited about, you know, now that our worlds have opened up so much because of social media. Mm-hmm. And so your networking, your community has opened up to the world, really.
Absolutely. It's a great thing for curators too, because usually you'd only be exposed to this kind of small subset of artists that you can tap into for shows you want to do or other projects. And now with social media, I can just go on the, you know, hashtag art or contemporary art or emerging artists and see so many more artists than I ever would be exposed to, and it's awesome. I mean, there's so much talent out there. It's overwhelming, but in a good way. There's a lot of great stuff happening.
So let's dig in and start maybe with the book, because that's the most recent project that you've been involved in. And if you want to show us the cover again.
Yeah, so this is the cover.
Yep, it's the Complete Smartist guide. Yeah, and it's about 300 pages long, right?
50? 327, a good
so
bit.
let's start from the beginning. Oh my God. I just ordered it. I'm so excited. I'm going to get it really soon. So yay, I can't wait. So let's start from the beginning. What made you decide with Ekaterina? What made you guys decide to go ahead and write this book?
So I'll go back a little bit further than that, even, because I did want to talk about Kat and I's relationship. We met in college, and she was the director of the off-campus gallery while I was the director of the on-campus gallery. So we were very we were kindred spirits from the very beginning. But then we weren't like best of friends immediately. We were just more like acquaintances because we both had the similar job. Definitely ran in the same, oh, thank you, I see someone who said they recommend the book, thank you. So we were, ran in the same circles, and we met and were acquainted and were very friendly, but not super close. And then when she graduated a year before I did, and moved back to Delaware with her partner, and that's where my family was based. So we kind of kept in touch because of that, because of the Delaware connection. So over the years, it was like 5 years of, maybe seeing each other once or twice a year and just kind of keeping tabs on what the other was doing. And then we eventually started to work on, she invited me to write for Create Magazine. And I also I had, since I was working for the gallery in Philly, I would kind of invite her to things that I saw happening there. And so we kept kind of our paths
collaborating,
intertwine even more and more. And we started becoming better friends. And then finally, she invited me to start writing for Create Magazine. And that was really like a much more integral experience for us to like become better friends and start kind of professionally working together. And so from that, we were originally, Create Magazine was focused on interviews with artists. And that is still very much a core of our mission and our program. However, we also decided between the two of us, because at that point we'd had quite crazy paths in our careers thus far, we started to realize, well, what if we shared some of the tips and things that we've learned and see how it goes? So she wrote, I don't remember the first articles we wrote, maybe I wrote something about working with galleries, she wrote something about writing an artist statement. I don't know, the early ones were things that we thought were very basic, but they ended up being some of the most read blog posts on our site immediately. And so we realized,
interesting.
We realized immediately that we had something there, that this was a topic of interest for emerging artists and for the community that she built with Create. And so we kept going. After those first 2 articles, we just kept writing, like maybe one of us, we'd switch off like once a month, writing a new one. And again, they just consistently kept being the top read post. And we're like, wow, we really have something here. And initially it was kind of a joke. After we'd written, maybe 8 or so of them, like, this could kind of be put into a book or something. And then the second time we said it, what if we did put it in a book? And then the third time, why don't we actually write a book? And
right.
So it finally became more serious until the point where we did it. Like, we put together a short, like 80-page book that we self-published, just put it on Amazon. We didn't expect anything of it. And it really it blew up. It started selling so many copies. We were
and
so
you
surprised.
guys did the publishing yourselves, correct?
We did it completely ourselves. We worked with the same designer who helps us with Create Magazine, Shelby. Shout out to Shelby, who's amazing. Look her up. She's Maple Projects, yeah. And so we just, the 3 of us, put it together. Oh, and our editor, she helped us out, of course. And it, like I said, it really went wild. We had no expectations, and it just blew us away. And so, of course, from that, we realized it's something important that we need to keep doing.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
From that, we decided, okay, even though it did really well, neither of us are the type of person to just let it be. We're like, we can make this better. So we took it off the market and decided to expand it and to add in all of the other topics that people were saying, oh, I wish you had included this, or oh, I'd love to learn more about this. So we kept writing for a year, and the 80-page book turned into the 320-something page book. And yeah, we decided to self-publish again. We did actually pitch it to a publisher. It didn't end up working out. That's a whole other story for another day, but it's feasible. You can, if you have a book idea, you can definitely do it. And I encourage you, if you really want to go the publisher route, it can be really beneficial in a lot of ways. But for us, we already knew that we self-published the first time. So
so you went for it, and it worked.
We did it again.
I mean, and it's working. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the topics, or I guess the hottest topics that you would consider in this book. Is it hard for you to say that?
Absolutely, because the beautiful thing about writing it was we had this schedule, and we were doing like 4 chapters a week for like 15 weeks. There's a lot of content in here, and I'm really proud of that aspect of it. like I said, we took a year to expand, and we really took the feedback from our community. So we didn't just talk about brass tacks things, like the practical things, like, you're going to find chapters about your website, your resume. You're going to find chapters about social media. I know that is a huge topic that artists always want to know about. There's a lot of content.
Finding your collectors.
Finding your collectors. That's one too. But we also decided to talk about, the emotional aspects. We talk about imposter syndrome. We talk about burnout. And we talk about rejection. That's one of my favorite chapters that I wrote from the first book that we expanded for the second book. And that's been a huge learning experience for me. I mean, I mentioned at the beginning about applying to all of these internships in Philadelphia, getting none of them, and then getting one at the Smithsonian. So yeah, there's a lot of, and that's the other thing. We also include personal stories. So we talk about these experiences that we have, and we're not afraid to share about times that we failed, times that we made huge mistakes. And I think there is some reviews that talk about they're so open and honest about this. I would be way too shy to share about these times.
But I think that, with those missteps or with those rejections, you learn every time. And if you're really passionate about what you do and why you're doing it, you will continue to do it and take that in stride and say, that's okay. I mean, they don't like it, but this people might. And you just show up and you continue working hard, and things will turn around somehow when you believe in yourself, and you have a good story behind it, and you can talk well about your art and really showcase who your audience is and why you're approaching, if you have collectors that are, in your imagination, but they are wonderful, wealthy, collectors, like you said in one of your episodes, write a letter to them and, and make it, part of your thinking, because when you think that you can sell to that kind of crowd, you will.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, all the things you're saying are true, and that's really why we wanted to write the book. All these small little details and lessons that we learned in the 10 years or so that we've been working.
Right. And also, there's not one path necessarily. Thanks, Renda. She said, love collectors in your imagination. It is the best. You just make them up, and you're just like reaching out to them, and you start believing in yourself, and that's how it works. And I guess, but there's so many paths and ways to get to your goal. There's not like one path that you're like this. It's a web, and whatever works for you is great.
Yeah, that's so funny that you mentioned that, though, because that's actually on our first page. There's not one linear path to success as an artist. You have to first define what success means to you in order to accomplish what you want in your career. And this is actually a last-minute decision. Our designer told us, hey, we need to have an extra first page before everything. Is there something that you want to put on it? And I was like, what is one lesson that we should pull from this book that can kind of act as the all-encompassing idea?
Maybe you were imagining me.
We pulled that last minute, so that's so funny that you bring that up. That is exactly what we wanted people to get out of it.
I think you were imagining me when you were writing that, but I would say that.
I guess so. Great minds, right?
Yes, for sure. Great minds think alike. So tell us about your curating process, and for emerging or established artists that want to get their artwork out there and they don't really know how to reach a gallery or how to reach you, or how does this work?
So, I mean, obviously, as you would imagine, it's different for every curator.
People are asking if you can read that quote again. Can you read that quote again?
Sure. Okay. There is not one linear path to success as an artist. You have to first define what success means to you in order to accomplish what you want in your career.
Amen.
And before I get to the curator question, it's just so true. And I think that's also the beauty of this book, is that it has both perspectives, both Kat's as working as a professional artist this whole time, and also as the editor of Create and building her business. And then also me working in the gallery world, working in an auction house, working in museums, doing as a writer, doing all these other things. So we really have this kind of two different paths to show. There are two completely different ways to be successful as an artist, as a creative, and we're both making it. So yeah, we're just two of the very
Where there's a
many
will, there's a
examples.
way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
always say that where there's a will, there's a way, and you just
And
have to will it.
yeah, and the other part that I forgot to mention, which I shouldn't forget, is that we in this one we include interviews with other artists from our community. So we have even more stories of people who are doing, you know, completely different things, but are also still thriving. So yeah, there's just so much good stuff in here. I'm really proud of it.
I'm so proud
um,
of you, and
Thank you.
it's an amazing book. So everybody has to go order
Yes,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, yes.
So back to curating. Yeah. So as you would imagine, it's very different for everyone. It's also very personal. I mean, seeing art is personal. Is you know come with this background of whatever your culture is or whatever your experiences are, and that's how you view art. So it's just a completely different experience for everyone. But for me, I am definitely obviously very visual, and so you know colors jump out at me and subjects. But I also really respect technique. Like craft is a big thing for me. Like if I see something that I just immediately know them, it took them hours and hours, or there's just so much attention to detail. That is something I really like. I'm also a big fan of texture. Just personally, I love things that just look like they're tasty, or like they're tasty for the eyes, I guess, or that you just want to touch it. That definitely draws me. What else?
Right here.
Yeah, there you go. And personally, as a collector, I am a big fan of small sculptures. As you might be able to see, I have little sculptures kind of populated all on my bookshelf, and I'm also a big fan of prints. I think probably just from being a printmaker in my early days as an artist, so I appreciate those techniques. But
So how would you, what would you say to the artist that is, you know, is now building a portfolio that they have some social media presence, but maybe not a huge following, and maybe they're working on their website, or their e-catalog, or, you know, anything that they are working on, but they just don't know how to take the next step. How to get to a U, for example, how to, you know, get to a magazine, how you get to be noticed more, curated for a show, for a gallery. How does that work?
Sure. So there are a number of things I would recommend. I mean, first and foremost, make sure you're actually ready. So I think there are some artists I see who, you know, they maybe have like one or two pieces that they're super proud of, and that's great. But when you're wanting to show your work with a gallery or show your work to a magazine or something, people are going to want to see more than that. You want to have at least a consistent body of work of, I'd say, between 10 to 20 pieces at least. And you really just want to build up a consistent style. That doesn't mean that you have to work in that forever. That doesn't mean that, you know, every piece has to be perfect. It just means that they want to see, again, some consistency to show that you've built up your voice. And I know that even that idea alone kind of scares artists sometimes, but again, it just takes time. It's going to happen. You just kind of keep working throughout the years, and eventually you'll come across something that really feels like you. And again, like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be forever. Like if you do this amazing series of landscapes of the ocean, and you're doing that for 2 years, but then you suddenly decide you want to paint abstract birds, like that's fine.
Yeah,
You can do
exactly.
that. It's just a matter of building up that consistency before you start applying, because it's just really hard in so many ways for a curator or a writer or whoever to come up with ways to do projects or exhibitions with your work if there's only a few pieces to work with. It really just doesn't make sense. So make sure that all of that is ready to go first. Make sure you have good pictures, kind of the basics. Make sure you have your website, resume, like you said, the like social media presence, all kind of established, and then start applying. I mean, there's still, for some reason, this idea that you get picked and you get chosen, but we're not in that world anymore. That there's a lot less gatekeeping. I mean, it still exists on the very high levels, but I think with social media and with a little bit more openness because of that, you can apply. Like, people reach out to me all the time. That's that's fine. That's totally within your power to do so. You have the power to do that, actually, and I encourage it. And that's how I've gotten a lot of my opportunities, not from waiting around, but from pitching people, from cold emailing, from networking, from,
Yeah.
you know, really kind of having my nose to the ground, like sniffing around for opportunities, you know?
Yeah, I feel like we have parallel lives. You know, people ask me, like, how are you getting all these interviews? And I'm like, well, I'm asking people. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. I'm going out there. I'm sending cold emails. I am, you know, I'm asking you for connections that I think that will be really great to bring into the program so that we can keep educating and inspiring people at home. And so, you know, it's like you said, it's a lot about networking and putting yourself out there and asking questions, because if you don't, you will never know, right? So that's your first step. Like, find out something that you like. Make sure that you research if they're accepting new artists at the time.
Yes, please do your research on that.
Right? Because you don't want to send your stuff when they're not asking for artists, because then you'll be a no right away, and you know, you won't maybe even get an email back because it's not the right timing. Right? Timing is everything too.
Absolutely. I was actually reading that chapter of my book the other day about networking. So two things I want to mention. First, there's an article. So I'm writing, I have a new column with All She Makes, the directory for women artists.
Oh, I'm part of that.
Awesome. Yeah. So
yeah.
Svetlana is great. I'm so happy she built that platform. It's been amazing to watch it grow.
Yeah. I'm so excited I'm so honored to be a part of it.
Yeah. So she invited me to be a writer for, well, now the upcoming magazine, but first the blog. So I am doing a monthly post with career advice, and my upcoming one for January is actually all about pitching. So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be posted next week, and it's actually going to cover a lot of the things that you've just talked about. Or
oh my God, I'm so excited. Can you give us a little hint?
Well, I mean, a lot of what I mentioned just about having all your stuff ready, but for me, the pitch, the one thing that a lot of people don't have in the pitch, well, beyond first having the confidence to just do it and get out there and ask people instead of waiting for them to come to you, is making it really, really specific to that person. Like, why do you want to work with them? A lot of people just say, let's collaborate. And the conversation ends there, because you can't do anything with that. You need to say, you don't just say, let's collaborate. You say, hey, I'm an artist and I see your platform might be a match for what I'm doing. Do you want to do a giveaway together? Or can I do an Instagram takeover? Or I don't know, if it's a business, like, hey, I think my designs would look really great on your products. Like, give them something specific. I think that is probably one of the biggest issues I see with pitches and why they don't work. So.
And also in galleries, why you match with that gallery. Why are you really pitching into that gallery? I think that they want to see that, right? I mean, you have your own PxP gallery.
Absolutely.
And you can probably we'll talk about that in a minute, but when you really are putting yourself out there, why are you putting yourself with that gallery? I think that is the biggest question. Like, how are you both going to benefit from it? Because it's a collaboration from two people. So how are they benefiting from you having you? And what are you giving them that they cannot turn down?
I think you need to be doing a guest post too. But that's absolutely right. It's a lot. I mean, essentially, you have to convince them of something. So you need all of the evidence that you can gather to help support that ask, you know? So it's just really a matter of thinking strategically, like you said, about how does my work really support what they're doing? Why is it really a fit? I mean, I get artists that their price points are not within the PxP price points, which that is like 2 seconds of reading my website to find that out. So like, it's just simple things. Or like, you know, do things have to be for sale? I'm like, well, yes, we're for put a profit gallery. I don't do those kind of well, I do those kind of exhibitions, but separate from PxP. Like PxP is a business, so yes, it's just a matter of doing your research, making sure you're
Right,
fit, but
right.
two, when you're actually pitching, like use that information to be able to support why it's actually a match.
And
So
I
yeah,
would say also, like, use you. What makes you great? What makes you different? Be proud of who you are. A lot of people, like, I'm so proud that I'm Mexican and American, and I have it in my blood, and I talk about it all the time. And maybe that's what differentiates me from somebody else. But, I'm proud of it. I talk about it. Maybe I will reach someone that can relate to me because either their grandparents were immigrants or, whomever, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, embrace yourself. Don't look for the bad things in yourself. Look for all the good things that you have to offer. Because
yeah.
sometimes we are like, so judgmental to ourselves, and we are our worst critics. And we need to give ourselves a little love in order to put ourselves out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, that's definitely another thing that we bring up in the book is, artists, especially when they've dealt with rejection, can really take it so personally. And that's just, it breaks my heart to hear that artists do that, because that's not the case. There was,
But I think it's part of, like, so emerging artists, I think they even take it harder because they're just starting, and they think that everything they're going to do, they're going to sell. So if you start with that mentality, you're going to fail, right? You need to start working because you love what you do and because you're working for a bigger thing in the future. And as you're working, maybe you can start, pitching and doing all these things, but know that you are going to most likely be a no for a while, and maybe not. Maybe you're going to be a yes from a get-go. But, like, it's okay to be on the no for a while, because you learn
yeah,
so much in that space. I mean, I
yeah.
I had a nose for 10 years. That's a long time, to just show up and keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And I didn't have the skills or the knowledge that I have now. Looking back, I would say to emerging artists, like, go into marketing, go into business, know a little more of that area, because I came out of fine arts school and I had no idea what even to do with that degree. And so I think sometimes it's hard.
It's absolutely hard. I mean, that really was the motivation for writing the book. We spent the 10 years also getting rejected. And so we wanted to help people kind of leapfrog that, get past that really difficult stage, and have all the tips and tricks ready to go so that they could fast forward and get to the fun part, the good part, where they are getting the yeses and they are seeing the success, happen much, much more quickly.
Now, how do you see artists pricing their work? I always get that question, like, where do I start and how do I start pricing my artwork?
So yeah, I get that question a lot too, as you might imagine. I mean, the answers are very basic. It's a lot of research, looking into other artists that are at the same stage as you. There are big platforms like Saatchi, there you can literally see a bunch of art from emerging artists on sale, prices right there, and you can compare that way. You can also use some formulas. There are some formulas that we mention in the book, so you can look those up and see if they work for you. They don't necessarily work for everyone, because some of them are based
Are
on
the
by
formulas
size
like
and
per square foot, or
yeah,
how are
yeah,
they?
they're like by size or by materials and time. Like there's a couple in there, so that might be useful for you if that's a route that you want to go to. But it's also part experimentation. I mean, you have to see what works with your audience, and you have to know your audience first, and that takes time too, because obviously everyone's building their kind of family of collectors, and so they need to. In order to get enough data, it's going to take some time. But I think actually the biggest thing about pricing, though, that I always say is you have to be confident with what you're selling your work for. So if you are young and you just want to make a quick buck and you are trying to sell something for $500 when you don't actually believe it's worth that, people are going to pick up on that. Like, you really need to be able to confidently express your price and stick to it. And then, yeah, that alone is such a game changer. I think there's really
I think when you believe that you're worth what you're asking for, that's also a big part.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing. I think it's like 30% what it's actually worth and 70% what you believe.
So
maybe a little bit different in the distribution, but somewhere around there. It's really more about how you're thinking about the work than the actual value.
So how are curators now using social media, you think? In what platform and which way are you looking through, more or less? Or I guess that's a good question.
I definitely know that curators are big on Instagram, and it's a huge way for them to find new talent. And it's just, like I said, been so much easier to find way more artists than we'd ever be exposed to normally. I think to a lesser degree that happens on like Facebook or on Pinterest or whatever, but it's still valid to be on those. I would only really suggest though picking like 2 to stick to, because obviously you want to make the most time for making your work, and it takes time to maintain a strong presence on more than 2 platforms at a time. So I mean, yeah, and so think about which platforms make sense for your work. If you're video, maybe it's YouTube instead. But yeah, like I said, definitely Instagram is a big platform for curators. It's one that I'm very active on, and I know a lot of my colleagues are as well.
And are you guys looking, let's pick me. So you look into Sandra Fele art. Do you look at the whole page, and then do you actually go into the website and you kind of see what my background is, or how does that curator work goes? Like, what's the behind the scenes?
Ooh, so, I mean, if I have to be completely honest, you really have to make a good impression quickly. It's not just me, it's basically any curator I've talked to about this. Like, within a couple seconds, they should be able to see, like in the first maybe like 6 to 9 blocks, what is your style? What kind of work do you make? Like, you really have to make an impression on them fast, because if not, they can very easily click away. And that's not just the social media era, that's life right now. If before everything
It's
shut
true.
down, do you
It's
remember
within seconds.
Yeah, do you remember going into a gallery museum? Like, how many people do you really see stand in front of something for a minute, like a whole minute? That seems like forever. You have a couple of seconds, you see people, they look at a piece of art, maybe 5 seconds, and they walk away. So that's the same thing, especially because it's so easy on your phone to just keep scrolling to something else or click on. And I don't want to make that sound as bad as it does, but it should be more of a motivator, because it's really simple. That's the thing. People want to think that social media, there's so many hacks and tricks and whatever to it. No, what you really need is good, solid images of your work, maybe a couple pictures of it in situ, like in a gallery space, in one of your clients' homes. But the majority is just simple pictures of your work, cropped to the edges, good photography, good lighting, good color. That's it. Like, if I see those images, I'm happy. Because the thing is, sometimes I see one image that another account has reposted of an artist, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Let me go check this out. And I have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and I don't find it, because there's just nothing there. There aren't any other good pictures. There aren't any, like I said, just those simple, straightforward images of their artwork. Like, there's the picture of breakfast or the cat or whatever. And I'm not saying that you can't show your personal life. I love that stuff. I love cats. I had one for 20 years. So I'm not going to be mad when you have a picture of your
But
cat.
just not in your professional page.
I mean, I don't even mind that if it's like once every once in a while, I really don't even mind that at all. It shows you're human. I think you don't have to be this Yeah, on side note, you don't have to be this perfectly curated feed either. I wouldn't describe what I'm looking for as a perfectly curated feed. Oh, thank you, Pia. Yeah, what I'm looking for is just, again, this very simple thing. I just want to see your work. Just show me your work, please. All these fancy pictures of brushes and, you know, your easel well lit in the daylight. And yeah, okay, that's cool every once in a while, but I just want to see the art. And then in terms of clicking onto the website, it depends what I'm looking for. It's like I'm I'm really only looking for artists at specific times in the year. Like you said, timing is a big thing to consider. So do try and do some snooping around and some research to see kind of what's on the horizon for whatever
Do you have
curator and
secrets for
industry.
that? Do you have like any like suggestions as to when is like a hot time for artists to reach out?
um, yes and no. I mean, big times for galleries, like we're always looking for like big shows to present in the fall. Like September is always a huge busy time. And then in the spring, maybe like March to May. So then you want to think a couple months before that is when we're looking, or depend. It really depends on the gallery though, because some galleries plan their
Maybe
things
it's a
like
year
years in
before,
advance.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I'm lucky because most of my curatorial projects are online right now, so it's a much faster turnaround. I can, you know, see artists like 2 months or 3 months in advance and work with them. But beyond that, yeah, it's hard, I think. But again, I think that's one of those things that it's not as difficult as you think it is because I always post about my calls for art, and I always have it on my website. And yet I still get artists all the time just like sending me a DM like, look at my work. I'm like, I have it on my website. I have it like on the FAQ page, on the home page, on the about page, on it's posted about on my feed, it's in our highlights, it's on my stories. Like I have a million different places where it says this is where you show me your work. Don't DM me.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Because that also that puts them off. Like that puts you off. Like you won't, and maybe if you get it again, you're like, oh, he's the guy that, or she's the guy, or the woman, or whatever that showed me their work at the wrong time. And so um, I think that people have to be aware of it and be sensitive to your time. And when is the right time, then reach out, DM, go for it, all of it. You want to
Yeah.
be, in your face as much as you can with, uh, you know, humbly, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, and I try and be sensitive too to the fact that a lot of people are just still learning about business and the proper way to pitch, and so I'm nice about it, and I have a message that I send, and oh, okay, yes, I will be glad to look at your work, but please do it through these channels, because it's also just the platform itself. Like DM and Instagram isn't necessarily my favorite place to see the work. I find the artist, yes, but then I do prefer to go on their website to look to get a fuller picture. You know, on Instagram, you can't see someone's resume. You can't see the exhibitions they've been in. You don't see pricing necessarily. So it's just a lot easier if you can get them on your website instead of relying on just what's available on Instagram to convince them to want to work with you. Which is again why I always recommend emails over DM, but I know that it's really just a personal preference on the part of the curator, and some of them are fine with it. I'm a little more old school. I definitely prefer email because I think it's that extra step. It means that you went on my website, you looked at my email, you probably are writing a message with my name instead of just hey. It's those little details that show me.
What is a great pitch? What makes it a great pitch?
So the article coming out is really going to go into more detail. I
You're gonna have to
think,
share that link with me so I can
yeah.
share it to my to my people.
Yeah, no, but I
um,
think what I mentioned before, making it specific, well, one specific to that person, like really, why do you want to work with them? Why do you want to work with me? Like if someone says something about me specific, like, hey, I saw that you're curated this show at Hastings College last year, and I really liked that you included XYZ artists. Like that shows me like, wow, they really paid attention to something that I did. And that then makes me want to continue reading. And they might then say, oh, would you be interested in interviewing this artist? Or, and like I said, you have to make that, one, make that personal connection, and two, try and use information about them to help support your argument. And also, like you said, you know, what is it about you that makes it a good match? Like really just that little extra bit of research that helps make it like a really strong argument. Like just make it a no-brainer. I guess say that. Make it a no-brainer for them to want to work with you.
And I would say, even like you're saying about seconds of like the image, it's seconds about reading that pitch. So literally like your first paragraph or your first line has to be catchy, good, enticing, because if you don't find that, I think that you're not going to read the rest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I get emails that start with "Dear Sir." Not a good start.
Oh, God.
You know, like that shows me you didn't even look at my website at all, because clearly on the About page, it's 2 women founded this gallery. Thank you very much. So, like, that kills me. That kills me. Like, yeah, I got one once that was "Dear Sirs." I'm like, oh, this
God.
is a woman-founded gallery. 2 ladies. Thank you. So.
Oh my God. You guys, if you have questions for Alicia, this will be the perfect time to send some questions. But this is, you know, it's funny because like you said, now it's all, you know, trying to put yourself out there in a way that maybe you didn't feel comfortable before, but this is the world that we're in right now. And it's a great one. Embrace it, because you were never ever used to be able to be seen around the world. Now you can. Now you really can. And so it's wonderful. I mean, I embrace it, and I take it with great assault on how I go to my social media, because it doesn't take over my life, but I try to balance it out.
Yeah. Use it for the good, not for the crazy.
Exactly.
Don't let it take over your life. That's the other thing. Again, it's a tool. It's really just a tool. Don't, you know, if you find that you're using it to compare yourself, if you find that it you know, really weighs on you heavily emotionally, like, don't get off. It really should just be another business tool for you. You know, don't let it really get, don't worry about it so much. Like everyone gets, oh, how do I get more followers? How do I get whatever? But that's the other lesson that a lot of artists will tell. Even Kat, hopefully we get her on soon. But
me too.
She now has 50,000 followers. Okay, that's huge. That's a massive audience, right? But she'll tell you the difference between having 300, 500, 50,000 followers. That doesn't mean that her sales suddenly increased like 10% or whatever, 50%, 100%. No. So stop freaking out.
But you know, I think that people do freak out about it. People do think that the more followings you have, your business is better, or it's thriving differently, or it's, I mean, you're reaching a lot of people, but it also depends on the content that you're giving them, right? And so I agree. I don't think it reflects the quality of your work. I don't think it reflects the how you are going to find new people, or, you know, I think that is a very important point, actually, that what you just said.
It should always be about the quality of followers. So I mean, yes, I will tell you, getting to 10,000 should be a goal, because being able to put links up in your stories is actually really, really useful. And I find that I do get a lot of clients who click through directly to the website. So that is very helpful. But once you get over 10,000, I mean, it's really not that much of a difference. Like, I guess,
and how
you really
do you
want to become you know, an art influencer, that's a whole different thing. But there was a quote we heard once, like, do you want to be an art influencer, or do you want to be like an artist? Like
right.
You know,
exactly.
You really just want to put your work out there and get people to connect with it, you don't need to be an influencer to do that. So,
I guess one last question. How do you grow to get to 10,000? Do you have a strategy? Have you used anything that has worked for you?
Yeah, there's a lot, that, back to the book.
Yeah, let's put it out there.
Yeah, so it's definitely consistency. Like I said, I want to see those images of artwork. I think if you want people to connect with your work, there's gonna have to you're gonna have to show them what it is. It's not gonna just be, a lot of the personal life necessarily. I think ads help, and we don't do like huge ad budgets. We don't have big ad spends. It's usually little like 10, 30, $50. And we talk about how to do that in the book. But you can also look it up online. There's a lot of information on Instagram itself. Like Facebook has a lot of tools.
Promote your, like it would say promote your artwork, and then you go in and you make a campaign, and it could be a 5-day, 7-day, whatever.
Yeah, those little ones have helped. Partnering with influencers does help. Just finding the right ones that would organically be a match. Don't just, again, DM people like, hey, I see you have a big following, can you share my work? Like, there are ways to do that. Pitch it in the right way.
Exactly.
Putting your work out there, like, naturally. Like, if you're in a show, then that gallery or museum is probably going to post about you, or whatever institution. So that's a way to organically just get more traction on your work. Getting people to comment, share, save your post, that helps with engagement. Using the right hashtags. I've written an article about hashtags for creative.
Save your own, save your own post?
No, getting other people to save your post.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so just kind of thinking about what content would work with that. If you do posts that ask questions, or giveaways can help.
Yeah.
Partner with someone strategically, pitch someone strategically. These are all just like the standard tips, I feel like. I don't know if anyone has a little more questions regarding that, but maybe that was helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. Put it in the comments below. We have like 4 minutes left. So I can't even believe it. Any last tips or things that you would like to share with us? Where can we find you? Again, if you can just let us know everything where we can find Alicia, please.
Yes. So my gallery is at PxP Contemporary, and the website is, as you would imagine, www.pxpcontemporary.com. We do have a current call for art up, so timing, there you go. I'm letting you know. We are open to submissions, and I am curating a few things coming up this year. I'm doing a lot of figurative stuff right now. We had a figurative show, not last year, but the fall before that, and so I want to do a bigger version of that. So I'm working on building that out right now. And then I don't yet know what we're going to do for the rest of the year, but I always get inspired by the submissions themselves. So depending on what I see and what is most interesting, I kind of build shows around that. So yeah, I always love to see new work, because that gives me ideas. And I also did want to mention, so in addition to the fine art, like exhibitions and collections that we have, I started this new program last year called the Maker of the Month. So I also am having one craftsperson per month. So if you make crafts, I would love to see those too. We've had ceramics, we've had jewelry, we've had like resin pieces. So yeah, I'd love to see any of that as well. Yes, I'm seeing some people. Thank you for joining, and thank you. If you get the book, we'd love to hear your reviews about it, and hope that it's helpful. I think, like I said, even
you can hear Alicia's and Kat's podcast on Create.
Yes, we also have a podcast,
which is great, and I highly recommend it. And I can't thank you enough. What a wonderful, incredible, informative interview this was today. Thank you for your time and all your knowledge. It was really, truly a pleasure to have us with us. Seriously.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. I love sharing. I enjoy it. Like I said, I've had such a crazy but awesome 10 or so years that I've been working in the art world, and my hope is always just to help people avoid the bad and the mistakes and the winding path, and get to really
Yeah.
where they want to get to a lot faster than I did. So I'm always happy to share.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I just want to say to everyone that we will have a special, I will be on Show Fields, which I am so excited. They're coming to my studio, and I'm going to have an interview here on Thursday, the 21st at 4 p.m. Central Time. I will be sending out that this week, so look for that. I'm excited to work with Show Fields. I know you know Tam Green, and I know she's
Yeah.
in here right now. So maybe she left already because we were saying our goodbyes, but so excited to work with them, and it will be a great new experience for me as well as they are working, from across the ocean with me, and it's just it's a pleasure. So I'm excited for that. So look for that,
Yeah.
and yeah, I hope you can join us, Alicia, for that one.
Absolutely. I did my first creation with them last summer, and I'm doing my second one in February. So
Oh,
it's
I'm so
exciting.
excited. I'm so excited to be working with them. So, but thank you so much again. And I'm grateful that you're part of my army of artists. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you everyone for joining. Take care.
Bye.